Hey everyone, Rogue Gold here, and today we've got a lot to talk about. In this video, I want to do my best to try and break down and give my thoughts on everything that just went down with the Division 2 in the Year 5 Season 2 finale. It released yesterday, so all of the targets are now available if you want to jump in. And between what we learned about the Recruiter, Vikram Malik, the various epilogue things, the new world events, there's a lot to get through, but I'm going to do my best. So if you enjoy thorough Division 2 coverage like this and you want to see more, then be sure to hit that like, subscribe, all the good things. I got a bunch more coming your way in 2024. Before we dive in, this is your final warning. Everything past this point will contain spoilers for everything involving the finale and the story, so if you don't want to know it and you want to do it in game first, then click off now. And where I want to begin with is a short guide on how you can collect all of the remaining audio comms after completing the manhunt. I've gotten a lot of questions there. So once you defeat the Recruiter, you may notice that you have this like encrypted comm within your menu. This actually begins a sequence of 4 hidden epilogue comms that are quite neat. All of these must be done at nighttime, at least to my knowledge, so after 2100 is when you can begin to do them, and as long as you know where they are and you are quick at going to each one, you can do it all within one night cycle, so you don't have to wait multiple days. Here's what you're going to want to do. Starting at 2100, this begins at the castle. You want to go right to the right of Vikram Malik, right here on the wall. You can grab this little conductor, and then the camera will kind of turn and you can see. You follow these purple lights around until you reach this globe, and then you can grab the comm that is there. After that, it will unlock the next one in your inventory. You're going to want to go to this point that I'm at on the map, just north of the Capitol building. These gates will light up in the same purple light, follow it around the courtyard till you get to the comm. Next one is 2 blocks south of the bank headquarters mission. Go to this point on the map, and then you just follow the light, same as before. Lastly, you want to go near the No Hope Hotel, this point on the map, same as usual, follow the lights, but this time, this is the final one, you actually get to go to the Recruiter's hideout. And we'll talk about it more in the next section, but that is just the guide itself for how to get those, if you're still wondering. Alright, talking about all of the story-based things that we learned, let's go sequentially here. Obviously, it all started with the Vikram Malik sub-target, and his portion definitely delivered some much-needed context to his character and his loyalties. We learn how he got back to the castle and got in the fold with us. That was a big question that people had heading into this season. And we also learned kind of what his role was before all of this, in that he was basically, I think, a contractor for McManus and some of the, aspects of the government. And probably most importantly, we learned that his betrayal to us back in year 1 when we were introduced to him was quite literally a scripted event from Natalia. We get this comm where, in the background, we're doing the mission, and she says to him, all right, now read your lines, and it's all right there. So that was good to learn. Gameplay-wise, however, nothing too crazy here, but let's move on to the Recruiter and the mission at Camp White Oak. Story-wise, we did learn that it was indeed Agent Johnson. Leading up to the start of the mission, the various little comms that we heard from him, it started to become so obvious that I was convinced they were going to do a fake out, but no, it was him all along. And despite some of the bluntness of that reveal, I did find his dialogue and motivations to be pretty solid. All of the things that he says to us throughout the mission, specifically once you get to the boss fight. He claims that we're the ones off mission and are essentially rogues, which kind of follows up with the plot thread from Season 4. And, technically, he is right. The Division reports to the president. Faye killed the previous president when she was undercover with the Black Tusk. And Johnson even says when you're going through the mission that McManus would want to have White Oak under their control, as it is the base for POTUS, and he is in the line of succession. So by going against Cal and Homeland, we are by definition off mission. And I'm sure that's going to be a concept that will be carried on moving forward. This also seems to confirm that at least for some of them, we know now the hunters' identities and their motivations. This was hinted at in a Dissent comm recently. I just kind of wanted to wait for all of this to play out before really commenting on it. As is revealed by Johnson being the Recruiter, hunters are Division agents with extra jurisdiction. And this is a pretty huge revelation, and you see them pick up on this immediately once we learn that in the cutscene. Vic says to Manny, how many more of your agents are actually hunters? And Manny tries to brush it aside, but it is a legitimate question. If Johnson was the Recruiter all along, how many other agents that we've ever come into contact with have this ulterior personality and just side to them that they're actually answering to Cal? So that was huge. Talking about the mission itself, I know this part is going to be divisive, but I really loved it. Camp White Oak is my favorite main mission in the game, so I personally enjoyed going back there. It had the special nighttime condition, the weather effects were super cool. I also always love the little details like the lore continuity with them reconstructing the bridge that blew up in the original variation of Camp White Oak. And I have to say, again, I'm sure this was some people's least favorite parts, but one of my favorite parts of this mission was the new mechanic of the loss of our SHD network connection. I thought it was a very smart way to introduce a new layer of complexity and difficulty to the experience, without just taking the traditional route of making a boss immune or spawning a million NPCs. And I get that it does very much suck and basically completely invalidates skill builds in this particular mission and experience, but, you know, Division always does call for adaptation when it comes to different scenarios. And I don't know, just whenever it happened, it altered my playstyle in such a drastic way. You know, you couldn't aim your grenades, you didn't know how many armor kits you had left. It was just really fun, honestly. But beyond that, the set design, they had a bunch of new fortification setups, stuff like the friendly mortar rain from Birdie when you're running through that part was super fun. Physically saving Birdie was fun. That was something that we haven't gotten to do with any of the previous targets, so it was cool to actually see her in the mission. And yeah, the mission just felt really fleshed out. It had depth. For me, it definitely joins the ranks with like Season 9 and 11. I really love those ones that feel like they are both pivotal events and moments in both gameplay and story, and Year 5 Season 2 definitely met that mark. So really no complaints from me, had a lot of fun with it. We are just getting started, however. Now we move on to the various different epilogue things that we got, and there's a lot here. So first, let's discuss those epilogue comms in the gameplay. In these 4 comms that you get by going around the world, we get callbacks to the Extremis Malice graphic novel, which was cool because that, you know, obviously happened a long time ago. And in general, there was just a good amount of lore here to fill in a lot of the blanks, like Johnson meeting with Cal. There's callbacks to Keener, Kelso, and more. Gameplay wise, I really loved this hunt around the world. I felt it was really interactive, like how you got close to the lights, they would glow, you move further away, they would kind of subside. It was fun. And seeing the recruiter's hideout with the actual, you know, assets in there, you can see his specialization crate, a drone, the watch thing. It was really cool. I very much hope that we get more stuff like this in the future because it made the season as a whole feel very complete. You know, sometimes these things can end rather abruptly if the mission just ends and then that's it, the season's done. So this felt like a very fitting epilogue kind of gameplay sequence. Another neat point is that after you complete the manhunt, obviously you get the cutscene where Natalia cuts into the broadcast and begins speaking. Well, this actually unlocks the fact that Black Tusk propaganda broadcasts around the world now have brand new audio lines and lore from Natalia. I haven't even heard all of the ones yet, but it includes stuff like her talking about Ellis's suicide, which we know is not true. There are apparently lines about like her discussing hunters being Russians, the conspiracy around that, so that was always a fun community theory that was out there. So definitely track these down and listen to them. There's some good stuff in there. Another very vital thing, if you've not listened to them, are Birdie's debrief comms. Highly recommend you listen to these if you get a chance. She reveals 2 major things. One, that she has been to Black Tusk HQ. She doesn't talk about where it is, but she gives Manny info on how to potentially get inside, and this reveals to him, basically, you can see him putting the pieces together while she's talking, that Barden Schaefer is the key to getting in there and potentially sabotaging, doing whatever. I want to talk more about this in future videos, but I think it definitely points to the fact that we are going to be interacting more with Barden in the future when and if he wakes up. But yeah, pretty cool stuff there. And then she also reveals that Natalia and the Black Tusk are building an underground city to withstand a nuclear winter. So that's pretty huge. Again, that kind of follows up with some stuff we heard back in Season 9 when they were talking about the Button and Ellis. I don't know, it just kind of gives me chills thinking about us one day getting to storm this kind of underground city that they're building. I feel like this is a pretty major revelation that they just kind of threw into these debrief comms. Again, I want to talk more about it in the future, but yeah, that happened. And then lastly, we get a lot of references and teases towards Kelso and what's next for the game and the story. Towards the end of the manhunt, she gets referenced a ton. You know, you see Vic claiming that she's a hunter, and he says, you know, when Manny's walking away, why did Kelso go back to New York? And that's kind of the big thread heading into next season. You also see Johnson in the comms being deeply concerned by Kelso's actions, and that's always something that they've kind of played on even back to when they were looking at her psyche valves for the division. A lot of people thought that she was too hot-headed or maybe not compassionate enough. There have been many in the community who have speculated that she's either a rogue or a traitor for years, and this stuff will definitely just add fuel to that fire. I do think, though, that because of how obvious Johnson ended up being in the end, for Kelso to also be, you know, a rogue after this, I think is a red herring. I'm sure it will be suggested in Season 3 that she's villainous. That will probably be a big theme, as people questioning her motives, but personally I don't think it'll come to pass. Even in the mission here, Johnson says that she is on the wrong side, so I'm pretty sure that would mean that she can't be working with Cal unless he's just trying to throw us off. But in general, I think Season 3 is going to dive into an all-new side of things. We know we're going to learn more about Keener, kind of all of the events of Warlords of New York and his relation to all of this. So I'm super excited for it, as I think everybody is, and this did a wonderful job at setting that up. And yeah, those are my general thoughts and reaction to everything we learned, what got set up for the future. I think Year 5 Season 2's finale was a blast. I have a feeling that Season 3 is going to be great as well. Now that they have New York as their playground, we can finally move away from just using the DC missions. The bottom line is, if you're into the story, this is an exciting time to be a Division fan, and I have a feeling that things are only going to continue to ramp up moving forward. That's all of my thoughts, guys. Now I want to hear yours. Whether you've played the finale, you've watched other people play it, whatever the case is, I want to know what you're thinking about Johnson being the recruiter, about this information with Natalia building an underground city, Kelso, the rogues, whatever you're thinking, leave it down below. And that's going to do it for me today, folks. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Rogue Gold. Out.